try to get through some more reading before I do commentary. I don't know. I feel a little bit more comfortable than I did the last time. I want to make this more succinct for individuals that are here for the content. Once again, I highly encourage anybody to buy this book by Robert Johnson. It is titled He Understanding Masculine Psychology. And last time we read the introduction, we read the Holy Grail myth translated from the French version and the first chapter of the book. And we learned about how all men are Fisher Kings. This is quoting directly from the book on page 9. A boy in his early adolescence touches something of the Christ nature within himself, but he touches it too soon, is only wounded by it, and drops it. But notice it, and okay, many psychic wounds in a man become because he touches his Christ nature. That is the individuation process prematurely, can't handle it, doesn't see it through, and is wounded by this. So, one of my favorite Carl Jung quotes, and I'm going to forget the exact word for word, but it's until you something about bringing the unconscious into light. Butchering that. Hey Yoder, how are you doing? It's been a rough day, and not because of anything that happened last night. Me and Anna are cool. If anybody like is was here for all that. So I was cool last night when I knew me and Anna were cool, but we'll talk about like drama at the end. I want to get started in chapter 2 and do chapter 2 and 3 tonight. Try to do at least 2 chapters every time we have a reading. And I'm sorry, I should probably do a better summary of what I had read before. I remember that it was Parsifal. He had left his home of his mother's, and he already had lost his brother and father to them being knights, and he wanted to go after he saw knights. She didn't want him to, but of course obliged. In her heart, she didn't want him to, knowing that he had to go do what he wanted to. And okay, I'm going too much into detail. Basically, as I read the few sentences before, every man has something that happened to him that was traumatic in his youth. And this could be so many things. Like something that might have been traumatic to one person isn't going to be traumatic to the other person, or maybe not at the same time in life. Oh, hey, Diamond, how are you doing? Just wanted to come and say hello. I'm sorry I can't stay around too much to do tomorrow. I'm going to share you out. I didn't get to see nothing from last night, having stuff to do. I'm glad you didn't get to see because there was just one person, in my opinion, who was not having a good attitude, and we don't like that around here. I really appreciate you, Diamond. I think about you all the time, girl. And I'm in touch with Taya now, so thank you very much. I definitely let her know you sent me her way. And it's getting, hi, HK, how are you? It's getting able to network with people like Diamond and Anna and Taya. Like you guys don't understand. Like even if I got demonetized tomorrow, knock on wood, like I would, of course I wouldn't like that, but I still really cherish everything that we're building here. Hi, Hussein, how are you doing? And Yoder said to Diamond, sleep, sweet friend. Love you. That's nice. So here we go, chapter 2. The myth now turns from the Fisher King and his wound to the story of a boy who doesn't have a name. He was born in Wales. In those days, to be born in Wales was to be born in the farthest possible outlands. It is a bit reminiscent of the commentary in the scriptures, what good could come out of Nazareth? Apparently, Nazareth and Wales were both at the bottom of the list in the collective mind. So, of course, that is where the hero will come from. The hero, the saving quality, comes from the place where you least expect it. We are going to find out later that this boy's name is Parsifal, which means innocent fool. If you don't remember at the very end of the first chapter, this, uh, it's speaking from the author's perspective. He is talking about how sometimes we need to be more of a fool. In order to, in my opinion, he was saying, in order to get back in touch with the child that was traumatized, to really see that shadow self, one needs to be able to let go of their ego to the point where they are more of a child, more childlike. And I'll even read in my consulting room, a man will sometimes bark at me when I prescribe something strange or difficult for him. What do you think I am, a fool? And I say, well, it would help. I just think that's so great because our culture cultivates narcissism. And that's one reason that word gets thrown around so much. It's true. It's true. In women and men, but like I'd say, especially in women. Diamond, oh, that's good to hear. I've not been able to meet up with Taya this month yet, but I will be sure to talk to her about stuff. Good night. Good night, Diamond. I hope you sleep well too. It is a humble I should make it clear when I'm reading from the books, just so it's clear. I'm reading from the book now. It is a humbling thing for a fisher king to rely on his parsival nature for his salvation. It's a bit like the biblical injunction, except ye become as a little child, ye cannot enter the kingdom of heaven. Unless you will trust your parsival nature for your redemption, there is no hope for you. This comes hard for a man, for his masculine pride bites the dust. Jung describes an occasion when he was forced to do this. The great falling out between Jung and Freud occurred over the nature of the unconscious. Freud said that the unconscious is a scrap heap consisting of all the unvalued things in one's life that have been repressed into the unconscious. Jung insisted that the unconscious is also the matrix, the artisan well from which all creativity springs. Freud would have none of this, so the two of them broke. This was a frightening thing for Jung to go through. He was young, untried, with no reputation of his own. It looked as if he were finishing a career before it began. But Young said he went home and decided what if he really believed that the unconscious was a fountain from which all creativity sprang? He would have to trust it. So he locked himself up in his room and waited on the unconscious. It wasn't long before he was down on the floor with his childish games. This led him to recall his childhood fantasies, which he then decided to express in a form of adult play. For months he labored in his backyard, building out of stone the villages and towns and forts he fantasized as a boy. He trusted his childlike experience, and that was the beginning for him of an outpouring from the collective unconscious from which we have the legacy of Jungian psychology. That was Parsifal at work. And this is why I understand like an immediate reaction by many. I don't blame them when I say stuff like, get like, what made you happy as a child? Get buy toys off eBay you had when you were your favorite toys that you no longer have in your possession. Like, hopefully you can find them again. Like, I'm not all about like materialism, but if it's already out there used, especially if you can thrift it, I mean, why not? If you can afford to, these things might help you reparentify yourself if this is needed. Most of us have trauma. The vast majority of us, like 9.5 out of 10 people, have some kind of childhood trauma. It's so much more common than uncommon. Um, yes, inner child desires, Yoder said. I love that. I don't remember that from this book. I don't remember a lot, even though I swear this is like the fifth or sixth time I've read it. Parsifal, we will call him that, though he doesn't get a name until much later in the myth, is raised by his mother, whose name is Heart Sorrow. His father is gone and he knows nothing about him, nor does he have any brothers or sisters. He grows up in a primitive circumstances, wears homespun clothes, has no schooling, and is completely untutored. He asks no questions and is just simply a naive youth. Well, now we understand why he stumbled into a tent and assumed it was a church because there was a table with food on it, and his mother had told him to go to church, that they would feed him there every day. Early in his adolescence, excuse me, that's just like symbolism for how a lot of people aren't prepared well. And this is from the 12th century, but it is like the author mentioned already, what is considered the beginning of the modern era. And a lot of things still ring true today. And it just reminds me, as a mother of three sons myself, like how much you have to prepare them to go out. You can't just say things and assume they know what you're talking about. Like, children need to experience things, need to like you don't know until you know, right? I'll never forget this Reddit post where somebody was talking about how they went to a boarding school and they were ordered to sweep the floor and they didn't know how to use a broom, and everybody was making fun of them for that. Like like I totally get why that might seem silly, but it's like if you don't know, you don't know. If you never had to do something, you never had to do something. And that's when you like a really well-rounded home educated child has had a person, most often the mother, sometimes fathers, homeschool full time and are very present and like active, even if they're not like the home educating parent. Like, it really is like a full time job. And it, in my opinion, is okay, I shouldn't be putting my opinions into there. But I was just thinking about you, Anna, and you just know when you meet somebody's child that's like well-rounded, even within a few sentences of it, and it's a lot of preparation, and just that story of how he was sent into the world completely blind, it seemed like. Okay, Parsifal, we will call him that, though he doesn't get a name until much later in the myth. Is raised. Oh, I'm sorry, I already read that. Early in his adolescence, he was out playing one day when five knights came riding by on horseback. Parsifal had never seen a knight before. The scarlet and gold trappings, the armor, the shields, the lances, all the accoutrements of the knights dazzled poor Parsifal so completely that he dashes home to tell his mother he has seen five gods. He is on fire from what he has seen and decides to leave immediately to join the five magnificent kings. He hadn't known that such a thing existed. His mother bursts into tears. She tries to talk him out of it, but wise mother that she is, soon sees that there is no hope, that the boy will go off with the knight, so she tells Parsifal that his mother. I'm sorry, that his father had been a knight and had been killed rescuing a fair maiden. Parsifal's two brothers had also been killed as knights. Parsifal's mother had taken him to a remote place and kept the story from him in hopes that he might not go off to a similar fate. But now it has happened. There is no hope. So she tells us, gives him her blessing, and gives him some instructions. These instructions will reverberate throughout the whole myth, so it is worth listening to them. First, she tells him to respect all fair damsels. Second, he is to go to church daily, where whenever he needs food, he will find it in church. Then she instructs him not to ask any questions, usually pretty good advice to a garrulous boy, but later in the myth, we find that this last bit of advice is disastrous. I don't know this word, Garrulous. I'm sorry. Garrulous. I would have looked that up to pronounce it. If I do skim through it before I read it, like I skim through really quick to make sure there's no words that I don't know how to pronounce. I even made sure I was saying Parsifal right. You can look up a lot of words on YouTube, just the word and pronunciation, and there's like usually you'll find it. It's great. It's really helpful. Hi, Shot to the T. How are you doing tonight? I hope you're well. I'm doing well. I'm glad I'm here. I already feel better being with you guys, honestly. I had kind of a rough day. Okay. So Parsifal goes off happily. He never finds these same five knights, but he finds all sorts of other things. Everyone he meets asks, "Where are the five knights?" He gets all kinds of answers, all kinds of instructions, all manner of commentaries, all of which are different, and he is bewildered. The five knights are hard to find, for the five knights are everywhere, or maybe five knights are nowhere. If you look into the eyes of a 14 or 15-year-old boy who is asking, "Where are the five knights I saw?" and tell him something, you will get that look back. The last person he asks says something different about the location of the five knights, so the five knights are everywhere, but also they are nowhere. Eventually, Parsifal comes to a tent. He had never seen a tent before, for he had grown up in a simple hut, so he presumes that the tent is a cathedral about which his mother had told him. She said that it would be a magnificent place. Well, the tent is the most magnificent place he has ever seen, so he presumes that he has come to God's cathedral. So he bursts into the tent to worship, and he finds a fair damsel. This is the first of a glittering, dazzling, incomprehensible array of fair damsels, with which we are going to have to cope. With which we are going to have to cope. Oh, I hope Mr. Carey is resting, or maybe he's in a more fun live than this. Have you ever seen a boy on his first date? This is reminiscent, but of course the fair damsel is insulted. Parsifal has been told by his mother that he will have all the nourishment, all the food that he needs for his life in God's church, and sure enough, there in the tent is a table set for a banquet. The damsel is waiting for her beloved knight who is courting her, and she has spread out the best for him. But to Parsifal, prophecy is working perfectly. Here is God's temple. Here is the fair damsel. Here is everything he could wish to eat. Everything is just as his mother said it would be. Parsifal sits down and eats at the table and decides that life is good. The damsel by this time is becoming aware that she is in the presence of an extraordinary person. She begins to understand and is not angry, for she realizes that before her is a truly holy, simple, and guileless person. She implores Parsifal to leave immediately, because if her knight comes and finds him in the tent, the knight will kill him. For Parsifal, everything is working fine. He has found God's church. He has found a ravishingly beautiful damsel whose ring he now carries. He has been fed. All is well. If you have an adolescent boy, you will recognize all this. It's painful to watch, but beautiful in a way too. Parsifal obeys the fair maiden's request to leave and goes on his way. It is not too long before he finds a devastated convent and monastery. The monks and nuns are in travail. The holy sacrament is on the altar but may not be used. No one can approach it or make use of it. The crops won't grow. The animals won't reproduce. The wells have dried up. The trees bear no fruit. All manner of things have gone wrong. It is a paralyzed land. Myths often repeat the same thing over and over in many different forms, showing a principle at work on many different levels. This is why the situation at the convent and monastery is like that at the Fisher King Castle. The devastated land with the host on the altar that may not be used identifies the situation as a neurotic condition. Though everything one needs is virtually within one's arm's reach, one can't use it. This is the agonized condition of the neurotic structure of the torn or divided man. I believe that's a good one to repeat. Though everything one needs is virtually within arm's reach, one can't use it. This is the agonized condition of the neurotic structure of the torn or divided man. When I hear that neurotic structure of the torn or divided man, I don't, goodness gracious, I'm sorry. Immediately, the typical, like a lot of people would call him troll, but I think a lot of people like are really sincerely hurt. That's that old hurt people hurt people. They're lashing out for a reason. There are a lot more men, it seems like, especially women too. Women can be very hateful and spiteful. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to say like women are always lovely. But in this particular time, like, with the word incel floating around, and I don't believe like all incels are bad people or deserve to be that way if they don't want that. It is just very sad. So, okay. I looked for him but couldn't find him. He wasn't in our jam session either, Yoder said. And anybody that's listening that might be annoyed by me reading some of the chat, please keep in mind that in order for me to like read this copyrighted work, I have to stop and say something else, either some commentary or it might be the chat. And I understand if you're doing it on the replay and you can't see the chat, especially that might be frustrating. So I understand, and I only intend on getting better with my content. Won't be but a few months till we can screen share in like my like where I talk about a few different stories, like news, like topics will be so much more fun. We can screen share and like I'm just looking forward to getting better and better. I hope you guys know that. So we live in the richest time the world has ever seen. We have more than any people on earth ever had before. Yet sometimes I wonder if we are not also the most unhappy people that were ever on the face of the earth. We are alienated, we are fisher kings, we are monasteries over which spells have been cast. Parsifal sees all this. He doesn't have the strength to cure on the spot, but he promises to come back when he gets stronger and raise a spell from the monastery. Later on, incidentally, he does return and raise the spell. So that is the end of the second chapter. And the second to last, the the penultimate on earth ever before yet, some more the attitude too, like we live like kings used to, which it's a good attitude to have, to be grateful, to know that like just like seriously running water, like running hot on demand water here in the US, like I don't think a lot of people realize how many people all over the world don't have hot running water, you know? And it is a blessing, is a luxury of short sorts. But I also believe maybe we have felt even back in here in the early 70s, people felt the inequality, the wage gap growing, the wage stagnation starting, and it's like, "Hi, Peter, how are you doing?" I'm reading a few chapters from this book. We are just getting ready to start on the third chapter of this book. It involves Jungian psychology. It's by Robert A. Johnson, and there's a second book in the series. Well, I don't know. I shouldn't call one first, second, or third. Honestly, I'm not sure. Like, they don't make it clear which ones are which order this is supposed to be read in. But after this book, we're going to read She. And then I promise I will order the book We. I don't have that third book. There is a We, and I think that's funny. I've been married for 15 years. I've read these a few times. One time I read them aloud to my husband, like I'm reading to you. So let's start with chapter 3. Now Parsifal continues on his way and is met by a red knight who has just come from King Arthur's court. The red knight is so strong that Arthur's court was powerless before him. He simply walked in, took anything he wanted, and did anything he wanted to do. He has in his hands a silver cup, the chalice that he stole from the court. Parsifal is dazzled by the Red Knight. He has red armor, he has a scarlet tunic, the horse's trappings and saddle, and all the knightly equipment are scarlet. He cuts a magnificent figure. Parsifal stops the Red Knight and asks him how he too can get to be a knight. The Red Knight is so perplexed by the naive young fool in front of him that he doesn't harm him, but tells Parsifal that if he wants to be a knight, he should go to King Arthur's court, then laughs and goes on. So Parsifal finds his way to King Arthur's court. He tells the first page he meets at the court that he wants to be knighted and asks how this is done. He is laughed at, of course. The process of becoming a knight is an arduous one, but Parsifal naively asks and asks and asks until finally he is brought to King Arthur himself. Arthur, a kindly man, doesn't scorn Parsifal, but tells him he must learn a great deal and be versed in all knightly arts. And Parsifal understands. Now, this is in Arthur's court a damsel who, because of some difficulty that had happened, has not smiled or laughed in 6 years. The legend in the court is that night in the world comes along, the damsel who has not smiled for 6 years will burst into smiles and laughter. The instant this damsel sees Parsifal, she bursts into laughter. The court is mightily impressed with this. Apparently, the best knight in the world has appeared. Here is this naive youth, this boy in homespun garments, completely untutored, and the maiden is laughing. Extraordinary. We know that until the Parsifal part of a person's nature appears, there is a feminine part of him that has never smiled, that is incapable of being happy, and that she comes to life with a glow when Parsifal appears. If one can wake the Parsifal in a man, another part of him immediately becomes happy. I had an experience of this recently. A man came to my house and he was crying. Life was just impossible for him. It was not really possible to talk with him. So I told him stories and had him take part in the story. I made him play Parsifal, made him enter into this childlike journey, and presently he was laughing. The maiden who hadn't laughed for 6 years burst out in joy in him. Then he had some energy to go on. The awakening of Parsifal in a man sets all manner of living things going in him. King Arthur takes all this about the maiden laughing very seriously and knights Parsifal on the spot. One of the chamberlains in the court is angry at this and pushes Parsifal into the fireplace, humiliating but not injuring him, and slaps a damsel who had regained her ability to laugh. Parsifal is furious and vows to revenge the insulted maiden. I feel like I should stop and talk for a moment now. So I'm a big fan of, we read the Odyssey in school. I'm a big fan of myths. I know that's like technically an epic poem, right? And this is all really good symbology. I'm sorry if I'm not breaking it down good enough. I feel like if I talk, the more I talk, and not that I would do a great job at that, but the more I talk, the more away I get from the story. But if you just like, I think the author does a good job himself, just explaining like things that all young men go through, and it's about going back and unpacking. And I think this part is kind of sweet. So I'm sorry, I wanted to. If one can wake the Parsifal in a man, another part of him immediately becomes happy. I think this has a lot to do with the way men are socialized. They're not allowed to be a lot of things. They're not allowed to be emotional. They're not allowed to be anything feminine or like a woman. According to a lot of people, we're progressing in that way. They're not allowed to be, you know, to be emotional, to show their emotions. And I think that has a lot to do with it. Then he goes to Arthur and says, I have a request. I want a horse and I want the armor of the Red Knight. Everyone laughs uproariously because there had not been a knight in the King Arthur's court who had been strong enough to stand up to the Red Knight. Arthur laughs too and says, you have my permission. You may have the horse and armor of the Red Knight if you can get it. Parsifal sets forth. He finds the Red Knight and says that Arthur has given him permission to take his horse and armor. The Red Knight guffaws and says, fine, if you can get it. Parsifal has acquired a page by this time, and the page produces a sword for him. I have never been able to find out where the sword comes from. I am very curious. I would be like very much to know where Parsifal's first sword comes from, but I find no reference. He just has a sword. Maybe it is a natural sword that a boy has natively by inheritance. So they have a duel. In Wonder of Wonders, Parsifal kills the Red Knight. He pierces him through the eye. In the French version, this is the only killing in the myth. Parsifal undoes dozens of knights in the rest of the myth, but he kills only the Red Knight. The victory over the Red Knight may be accomplished either inwardly, outwardly, or in both dimensions. In any case, the Red Knight represents that strong, virile, masculine stuff a boy needs so desperately. Definitely has to be some truth to testosterone, adding some the competitive nature. I don't want to call it aggression, but definitely. Billy said, I show my emotions all the time. I don't worry about society's rules. I'm glad, Billy. I'm glad that you can do that. And I hope that you have support when you do. Billy, I saw the movie Sleeping Beauty. There was parts in it that made me cry. Oh, that's so sweet. It's good to be able to be, that's a sign of emotional intelligence, the more array of emotions that you can show, and that's what a lot of women complain about. Not that it's all about romantic relationships, but it's also something that a lot of women beat out of men or try to, whether as mothers or romantic partners. And that is sad. So I'm always glad to hear when a man can be whatever emotion he's feeling. Hi, Javier. How are you doing tonight? So, okay, I'm sorry. I already read that. The victory over the Red Knight be okay, I already read that too. If the Red Knight is slain outwardly, then the boy gets some masculine virility by overcoming some great obstacle. He defeats or overcomes an adversary in his path in a contest that requires from him courage and risk, and in this way he takes on the power of the Red Knight for himself. Generally, such a victory consists in winning something or coming in first place in the face of opposition. It may be accomplished by making the football team or being the best at something, going on an arduous trip such as hiking in the mountains or defying someone. Unfortunately, a boy generally gets his red knight armor by taking it away from someone else. That is the fierce but some boys will struggle fiercely for this. It is a matter of life and death for them. Often it takes dozens of red knight experiences to get this power. If a man is not careful, he will be red knighted throughout his life. A man often carries this competitiveness, which has a slightly adolescent tinge to it, into everything. Perhaps some of the lure of battle and war and the glamour of the military life is from the red knight structure. You think? Maybe. But there is also an inner dimension to the Red Knight struggle. For a boy to become a man, he must master his own aggression. He cannot be okay, excuse me. I'm not saying that the military isn't good for some people. I think that structure is good for a lot of men. I wish the best for any in it because I know that, they're doing it for me and my family as well. So like I didn't mean to laugh at that, but like there I have one of the most like laid back husbands in the world, and I still can relate these things to him. It definitely doesn't mean aggression. He cannot be a man without knowing how to be aggressive. Okay, but it must be controlled aggression that is at his conscious disposal. If he is just overcome by his rage and violence, then it is no good. His masculinity is not yet formed. Right. True masculinity is gentle, really. That's what makes it so strong. It's tempered in that way. I can't see them like you. Sorry, HK, I'm listening. Oh, thanks for still listening, Anna. I was hoping you were still here. Psychologically, he has been defeated inwardly by his red knight. His ego lies prostrate, and the red knight in him has won, emerging as a terrible bully of violent temper or even in vandalism or criminal ways. So every boy on his way to manhood has to learn how to master this violent side of himself and integrate that terrible masculine power of aggression into his conscious personality. And I believe, they mentioned the military, like sports is a big way that men channel. That's why, in my opinion, men tend to be more into sports, especially the contact sports. This is a way that they channel this nowadays that we don't have what we had for a long time, which was warring over territory, well, I know there still are wars. Oh my gosh, that sounded so silly. It's not a part of most of our daily lives, thank goodness, but we need to keep in mind that it is a part of many people's, and it's absolutely awful. And I don't talk about it a lot on my channel because I'm sorry that I don't. So, looked at in this way, the red knight is the shadow side of masculinity, the negative, potentially destructive side. To become truly a man, the shadow personality must be struggled with, but it cannot be repressed. The boy cannot repress his aggressiveness and win that way, for he needs exactly that masculine power which is to be found in his red knight shadow. So it is a matter of his ego becoming strong enough so that he cannot be overcome by his rage, but he can use the power in it for conscious purposes. That is to overcome obstacles in his path and achieve his goals. Obviously, the outer battle and inner battle are part of the struggle to win against the outer opponent and come up top dog. A boy must be able to muster and direct his masculine energies and also put aside his cowardice and longing to be protected by mother from danger. So he cannot win against the red knight adversary outside of himself without winning his inner struggle too. At the same time, not many boys will win the struggle just on the inside. That encounter with the outer obstacles, which challenges his will and identity, is also needed to really firm up his masculinity on the inside. There's an interesting detail at this moment. When Parsifal is about to put on the Red Knight's armor, his page says, "Take off that awful homespun stuff your mother gave you before you put the armor on." But Parsifal refuses and puts the Red Knight armor over his mother's homespun garment. In other words, he puts on his new masculinity over his mother complex. Of course, everything goes wrong immediately. This is par for the course for a young man. He takes his newfound strength, his swashbuckling masculinity that he has just discovered at about 15 or 16 years of age, and puts it on over his mother complex. That's a laughable combination. Of course, it doesn't work. So Parsifal gets on the Red Knight's horse and off he goes. There is a wonderful detail in one version of the story that says Parsifal rides all day because he doesn't know how to stop the horse. That's funny. Somehow by nightfall or from exhaustion, we don't know from what, the horse stops. Parsifal has managed his first day on the horse. I'm stopping to mention, if y'all didn't know, I didn't know this until recently. Horses, like back in the old cowboy days, like the cowboy would get on the horse, like so drunk, they would just be like passed out practically on the horse, and the horse would know to take them back home, or the horse would go back to the stable. And this was just kind of commonplace for there to be like some inebriated cowboys. I didn't know that about horses, but it makes sense. They're so smart. Oh, hi, Uncle Incel. How are you? Speaking of dead on the inside and full of masculinity, Uncle Incel loves you all. We love you too, Uncle Incel. I hope you're doing well. So Parsifal gets on the Red Knight's horse and off he goes. There's a wonderful detail. I'm sorry, you guys. I'm so bad about doing that. I'm just going to go on. In one version of the story that says Parsifal rides all day because he doesn't know how to stop the horse. Somehow by nightfall or from exhaustion, we don't know from what, the horse stops. Parsifal has managed his first day on the horse. If any man is sufficiently honest with himself, he will remember the first time he got astride the Red Knight's horse and couldn't stop it. Then Parsifal goes to Gornamond's castle. Gornamond is Parsifal's godfather, so to speak. He trains him, takes some of the rough edges off. Among other things, Gornamond got his mother's homespun out from underneath the Red Knight's armor and teaches him the things a boy needs to know for pursuit of chivalry. He urges Parsifal to stay with him for another year to study, but Parsifal refuses and goes off quite suddenly because he thinks his mother might be in trouble. Gornemont has taught Parsifal two specific things, and much of the myth revolves around these two instructions. The first is that if Parsifal is to search for the Holy Grail, the only proper pursuit for a knight, one primary requirement lies upon him. He must never seduce or be seduced by a woman. There must be no physical intimacy with a woman, or there is no hope for the Grail. The second instruction is that when Parsifal gets into the Grail castle, he must ask the specific question: whom does the Grail serve? This is a curious question, which we do not understand for quite a while, but these two instructions are drummed into Parsifal's head by Gornemund. So off he goes to hunt for his mother. He finds that soon after he left his mother, she died of a broken heart. You remember that her name was Heart Sorrow. Naturally, Parsifal feels dreadfully guilty about this, but is al- this is also part of his masculine development. No son ever develops into manhood without being disloyal to his mother in some way. If he remains with his mother to comfort her and console her, then he never gets out of his mother complex. Often a mother will do all she can to keep her son with her. One of the most subtle ways is to encourage in him the idea of being loyal to mother. But if he gives in to her completely on this score, then she often winds up with a son who has severely injured masculinity. The son must ride off and leave his mother, even if it seems to mean disloyalty. And the mother must bear this pain. Later, Parsifal, the son, may then come back to the mother and they may find a new relationship on a new level, but this can only be done after the son has first achieved his independence and transferred his affections to a woman of his own age. Ideally, right? Ideally. In our myth, Parsifal's mother had died when he returned. Perhaps she represents the kind of woman who can only exist as a mother, who psychologically dies when this role is taken from her because she does not understand how to be an individual woman, only a mother. And that's something a lot of people don't like. I know this isn't about mothers, but like they don't take into consideration when they talk about how women shouldn't be in the workforce. Like most people don't have as many kids as it would take to take up your whole adult life, And it's like, it's it's really hard. It's really tough when your life revolves around your kids. Like I feel like I have empty nest by like just having home educated and not doing it with two of them anymore. But it's ideal when the goal is for them to be independent. So, like, it's so difficult as a parent. I know there are probably parents listening to this, and um, it is the hardest thing to know they have to go through stuff, but it's also so necessary. And so, right now, we just so everybody knows, we're on page 30, and this book is only 70. I'm sorry, it's 84 pages long. So, what are we like 30, 40% through the book already? It's a super easy read. Like if you wanted to, you could read this in one sitting or, one day, one afternoon, one evening, what have you. Um, I heard you can't get a DUI on I don't know what you mean by that. Oh, on a horse? Yoder's just entering chat with a welcome and trying to listen. What did he say, Yoder? I think he's okay. Yeah, I saw the funniest shorts. I think it was from North Carolina or South Carolina. There was a man at a gas station who was very intoxicated, and he's like telling people how, since he has the horse. And I guess that's why what I was saying earlier, they're like pretty competent chauffeurs in and of themselves, so that is funny. Okay, let's see, maybe I will go ahead and read chapter 4 because I feel like we're just now coming up on something. He just found out that his mother died, and that's, symbolic for separating from the mother. And one thing I like about Jungian psychology, he left all that weird as the actual crap out of it that Freud said. I would like to do a video on Freud because there aren't that many on YouTube. And Candace Owens was talking about how she did a video on the beginning of psychology, like, the the godfathers of psychology or whatever you want to call it. And like Freud's family curated what work they allowed out to the public of his. And he had a lot of like way kookier ideas than the ones that we know about, such as, you want to be intimate with your father, your mother, whatever you are the opposite gender of. So, I've already talked about Kinsey a little bit. Like, I'm really interested in how a lot of this started, and it's like I really do feel like Carl Jung was a godsend because it really is relatable to modern day, in my opinion. And I'm going to go ahead and read chapter 4. So Parsifal never did find his mother again, but it was on this journey that he came upon a fair maiden in distress in the castle of Blanchefleur. Blanchefleur is the principal fair maiden of the myth. Everything that Parsifal does after this episode is in service of Blanchefleur, which means white flower. Blanchefleur seems to be the most unsatisfactory female one could imagine. Until one remembers that she is not a flesh and blood woman, she is part of Parsifal's inner structure, an inner woman. If a flesh and blood woman behaved as Blanchefleur does, one would just write her off immediately. Blanchefleur's castle is besieged, so she asks Parsifal to assist her. She promises the sun, the moon, and the stars if he will help rage a siege of her castle. So Parsifal goes out, finds a second in command of the army besieging the castle, and challenges him to a duel. Parsifal defeats him, gets his pledge of subservience, and sends him off to Arthur's court. Then Parsifal hunts up the first in charge of the besieging army and does exactly the same thing. There will be a whole succession of vanquished knights sent off to Arthur's court before the tale ends. Okay, now it is getting good. I'm glad that I kept reading. This battle with the second and first in command may symbolize one of the many battles a boy has to fight to free himself from a father or brother. A boy growing up will go out and fight every member of his family to be free of them, even when he substitutes someone else as a representative of father or brother. Often, if there is a sudden flare up with somebody at work, if one it is one finishing up some brother things from far back in adolescence. Having raised the siege, Parsifal goes back to Blanchefleur's castle and spends the night with her. One receives the most intimate details as to how they spent the night. Summed up briefly but beautifully, they lay in an embrace, head to head, shoulder to shoulder, hip to hip, knee to knee, toe to toe. But it is a chaste night. They are as brother and sister. This seems hard to believe, but then one realizes that this is an inner meeting, something that goes on inwardly within Parsifal. For, as we observed, the myth is not talking here about an outer flesh and blood woman when it speaks of Blanchefleur, but about the man's inner woman, his anima. It is terribly important to make this distinction between the outer flesh and blood woman and a man's inner feminine quality and to keep inner laws differentiated from outer laws. The laws of the psyche, the laws that pertain inwardly, are unique and often different from the outer laws. The matter of what to do with the inner woman, and especially how to differentiate from her from the outer woman, is the most important part of the myth. So it is very important to understand this strange injunction that a man is not to have a carnal relationship with any woman if he is to find the grail. This is the most important thing in the whole grail myth. If we can understand it, we will have a jewel in our hands. Again, please remember that this is a set of instructions on how a man shall manage or relate to his interior feminine woman, his anima. It has nothing to do with how a man relates to a flesh and blood woman. People don't usually know this. They don't have this dimension available for thinking. They don't have this dimension available for thinking. That's a nice way to say. Therefore, they apply the injunction outwardly in the myth, the medieval ages, and the whole movement of chivalry are largely misunderstood. One is no closer to happiness or the grail by leaving flesh and blood woman alone. When we take his inner law and try to apply it outwardly, we end up being puritanical and guilt ridden, which practically all of us are, and we still have no laws for our inner conduct. There is little information in the grail myth about what to do with flesh and blood women, but there is a great deal about what to do with that inner woman. That is the information we need so badly. One can think of many spiritual things that are negated by taking them outwardly instead of inwardly. The virgin birth is one. This has a powerful meaning for anyone who is going through the individuation process, for it tells us that the miraculous event, the birth of Christ within us, comes about through the intercourse of divine powers within the eternal human soul. That Christ's birth can come in us too if our soul interacts with God, and when it does, it is just as miraculous and unbelievable as a virgin birth. But if we get stuck in that literal historical question, did it happen literally that way with Jesus's human birth? Then we never get to this inner meaning and its profound truth. Much of Christianity has a set of laws for relating to, coping with, or making meaningful the inner parts of one's being, not a set of laws for outer conduct. Few people are aware of this differentiation. If we confuse these laws, inner and outer, we really have a difficult thing going. If a man treats a flesh and blood woman according to the laws that would be appropriate for his own interior femininity, his anima, there is just chaos. Okay, once again, this might be a reason why I do gravitate towards the Bible. I've always loved Jungian psychology, and I like how it relates to what is the most common religion in our country. Oh, hey, Mr. Carey, how are you doing tonight? I'm just reading a few more pages from this. I already read two chapters, and I'm reading from chapter 4 right now. I hope you're doing well, Mr. Carey. And yes, I think it is very important not to be guilt ridden, but it's important to try to have a strong character. And I tell my sons this, like, try to make decisions before you enter the room. And I know it's not always possible, but you have conversations with your kids, like, um, there's going to be people that tempt you to do substances or to do something dangerous, or and that includes, jumping into bed with somebody. But anyways, if we okay, there we go. Look at what happened in the Middle Ages when men really began first to cope with the anima. The anima has always been there, but it is only recently that man has had the capacity to come in any kind of conscious relationship to his own femininity. In the big scheme of things, the Middle Ages are rather recent. So there's like that's how I look at things too. And that's one reason I am able to have a public platform where I get on YouTube and like show myself to the world in for hours at a time. Like if I really didn't believe I'm like but a speck of dust in the like I'm not gonna be anything to anyone, like basically a blink of an eye in the what terms of human history and how long we've all been here. And I mean that in like the most positive way possible. I know that sounds like I don't. Before that, everything was lived out instinctively with the flesh and blood women around him. It was when man began to come to sense the difficulty of the anima and her danger to him that all the witch hunts started. Instead of quelling the interior feminine, which was a dangerous one, he had to go out and burn some poor creature who was behaving a little strangely. We are just getting to the point now where we can burn the right woman, namely the interior one. Although burning her is not too good a practice in any case, she will turn around and burn you if you do. We haven't really gotten far past the witch hunts yet. We are still projecting into outer flesh and blood women our relationship or lack of it to our inner femininity. Okay, and that is what is misogyny. This is why I love Jungian psychology so much too. And like there's so much of Freud where I don't wanna say it wrong. Basically, like, he did look down at women and think of them, like, as less than, and I'm not saying that, like, Carl Jung was perfect, but it is really important to like, there's so much projection, like, the more hateful somebody is, the more accusatory somebody is, a lot of it is projection. The more somebody tries to tell everybody else, like, "You can do whatever you want with your life," but when you start pointing the finger and telling other people, that's projecting. Hi, Randall. I hope you're doing well. I'm sorry, Mr. Carey. We need to. Okay. Anyways, I'm going to finish this chapter and then I'm going to chat with you guys. I have 3 pages, less than 3 pages left. Okay. I'm sorry. We are still projecting into. The laws of chivalry say that one should be chivalrous to a woman, not touch her, but treat her as if she were the queen of heaven. But chivalry doesn't make much sense in dealing with actual flesh and blood women. There are, of course, outer laws too. The outer woman merits the greatest respect and tenderness, but she will be the most unhappy, and things will not go well if a man confuses her with his inner woman. Oh, that's very interesting. To learn about how the inner woman affects a man, we must make some important distinctions between emotion, feeling, and mood. Most people lump these experiences together indiscriminately. For them, a mood is an emotion and a feeling. We must not do this, for the distinctions to be made between these experiences enable a man to distinguish his inner woman and help him see clearly the way she operates in his psychology. So we will spend some time on this. And it's also very important to kind of dissect like the conscious from the unconscious, the part of you that like knows right from wrong, and the part of you that reacts and feels. And like I said last night, like feelings aren't right or wrong, they just are. But it is our responsibility as adults to not hurt or harm, threaten, like make anybody uncomfortable with our own feelings. That's just like being polite and social beings. Oh, inner man, interesting and emotional catfight in a man's body, Yoder said. Yes, yeah, the inner woman in a man, interesting and emotional catfight in a man's body. Yes, and it's interesting how they're so quick. Like, a woman, this isn't all men, not all men, but a lot of men, like you can't be assertive, like you can't be anything but happy and bubbly without them being like catfight, rare, and it's like we're not even fighting. We're like having a healthy discussion about something, like me and another woman, they're like, "Cat fight." That's just like something I've experienced so much in my life, and I feel like it's total projection. You're like, we are competitive on a weird level. Don't get me wrong, but we're not competitive on the same level as men are. And I think that men's competitiveness can be healthier in a way because they tend to like get it out and like then they're done. And women like they may form grudges with their competitiveness. Okay. Now, here we get into the difference between emotion, feeling, and mood. Emotion is a sum of energy that occurs or is set off in a person by a meaningful experience. Its chief characteristic is its energy. Emotion itself is morally neutral. It may be good or it may be destructive, depending on where and how it is invested. To be really excited about something can bring much emotion, and it can sustain some beautiful things in one's life. There is also much emotion involved in depression. One is wringing one's hands or walking in circles on the rug, hunting for something that to be miserable about. Sorry. Emotion defined as energy is relatively easy to understand. Emotion is a sum of energy that occurs or is set off in a person by a meaningful experience. It is more difficult to describe feeling. This is a word that is used far too generally and imprecisely, and therefore it almost loses its usefulness. I am going to use the word feeling in a precise way to describe a specific experience. Feeling is an act of valuing. It is not necessarily hot and volatile like emotion, but it is that rational faculty which assigns value to an experience. This is a sense in which Jung uses a term in his definition of thinking, feeling, sensation, and intuition. One thinks about something, makes an intellectual appraisal of it, understands it, but by doing so, there is not yet feeling about it. There is no sense of judgment nor any valuation, so one has not related it to it yet. The act of thinking is quite different from the act of feeling. To feel is to assign value to an experience. If asked, then how one feels about something, the proper answer would be it feels good or bad, terrible or beautiful. Thus, we place a value on something by feeling. To feel is to assign value to an experience. An emotion is the sum of energy that occurs or set off in a person by a meaningful experience. Now, there's mood. Then there is mood. This is a thorny one, for mood is a strange thing. It is like a small psychosis or possession. A man's mood comes from being overpowered by the feminine part of his nature. Mood is beautifully described in Hindu mythology as Maya, goddess of illusion. Mood is being overwhelmed or possessed by some interior feminine content in one's unconscious. When seized by a mood, it is as though a man has become an inferior woman. Mood slang puts it aptly. He just becomes bitchy. That's all. It is a rare man who knows very much about his inner feminine component, his anima, or who has much relationship with it. It is fair to say that if a man undertakes any inner development, it is essential that he discovers his anima, put her in a bottle, so to speak, and put the cork in it. He will need to take her out again, but first he has to learn not to be controlled by her moods and affects or led by her seduction. Of course, putting the cork in the bottle is only the first step in dealing with the anima. The later and far more important step is to learn to relate to her, to have her as an inner feminine companion who will walk with the man and warm his life for him. Ultimately, the man has only two alternatives. Either he rejects this feminine side and it turns against him in the form of bad moods and undermining seductions, or he accepts it and relates to the feminine side of himself and of life and gives him warmth and strength. I am so interested to read the She book with you guys. Some men seem to have an enormous anima potential. That is, they just have more of the feminine within themselves. This is neither good nor bad in its own right. If they can bring this feminine side to good development, then they can be highly creative men and no less masculine just because of their powerful inner feminine component. These are the artists, the seers, the intuitive, sensitive men who are so culturally valuable in any society. But if they cannot come to terms with that interior woman, she will run them and possibly destroy them before she is done with it. Any woman who is rejected turns negative, and the inner woman of a man is no exception. The man's relationship to his anima shows on his face. You need only to walk down the street and look at the men you pass to get an immediate sense of their relationship to the anima. A man with no relationship to his feminine side either looks hard and inflexible or bitter or eaten away on the inside. There is a story about Lincoln, who, after an interview with somebody, said to his secretary, I don't like that man's face. The secretary said, but he can't help what his face is. He is not responsible for his face. Lincoln replied, after 40, every man is responsible for his face. Okay, so they this is what I was saying last night. Like women are more emotional creatures. Like men should be more emotionally intelligent. A lot of them are. I mean, a lot of men should strive to be more in touch with their emotions, and it's not their fault if they're not because the way they were socialized. However, it's also a woman's responsibility to be able to control her mood, like her hormones, the hormone fluctuations, her period, like these things shouldn't ever be an excuse to treat anybody poorly or badly around her. And it's like the woman's lot in life to also control her own mood, in this sense is what they are talking about. Like the hell on wheels type of woman. Like my son asked me, we were listening to 90s music and they something diva, and he's like, he got confused. He's like, what does diva mean exactly? And I had to give him like, uh, two definitions, right? Because in that sense, they were talking about like the 90s diva. We were listening to like, Mariah Carey and stuff. And anyways, I think this is really interesting and good. And I almost want to read chapter 5, but I should stop. I should stop here because I know myself and when I'm reading, I think that I would just start stuttering more. And it's just really interesting to me because as a woman, I can relate to a lot of this too. Like we are more alike than different. And yeah, still have Mr. Carey's GoFundMe up posted on my page. Anybody, I don't shout it out as much as I used to. I'm sorry about that, Mr. Carey. We should have a live stream focusing on that soon. I need to schedule things better. Anybody that in here right now that was in here last night, I do apologize for that. I'm gonna be more careful about who I like interact with over the phone. I'm really glad I met Anna Yoder, Family Farm Life, and I do believe, like not to keep myself away from absolutely everybody, but the Titus Morris drama, it's like I really want to focus on just making sure people know. I think that at this point there needs to be more of a focus on that. I could do better. I could do better. And when it comes to making sure like something if is out there and it's easy for people to access, it almost seems like it's getting it's getting too lost with all this drama. Nothing anybody else is getting to try to get attention out of a situation where a man committed bestiality for 10 years and was indecent around children to the point where a court ordered him he's not allowed to be around his own wife's three children from a previous marriage is it's absolutely classless. And I want nothing to do with anybody that makes content on that. Um, that I'm talking about beyond help. I want nothing to do with him. The person that was in the live last night, I know sensitive personal information that, like, if I really was a mean-hearted, mean-spirited individual, I would have like divulged that just to try to like get one up on her. And it really taught me, like, I had somebody try to warn me, and like she said, there will be consequences. It's like somebody already tried to warn me that this person is spiteful, and it's just like everything happens for a reason. I really do believe that like everything happens for a reason. You're watching me learn a lot of lessons here on my little YouTube channel. And I just like sincerely appreciate you guys so much. Like I really mean it. I know this was a late live. 3 years ago today, I lost my dog. We had to put her to sleep. And as soon as I woke up and I saw the day, like it's just having to say goodbyes. It's just been a hard weekend. And I uh I have her right here next to me. We had a half Great Dane, half English Mastiff named Mila, and I do have some content of her on my channel that's just privated right now. I'm sorry, guys. I was trying really hard not to cry. That's why I didn't want to bring it up to the end. But this is Mila, and they actually gave me this pretty box. I didn't pay for it, but she passed kind of suddenly from kidney failure. They tried to save her, and they couldn't. And she was barely 6 years old, and it was so sudden. I drove her to Purdue University to get a necropsy to try to figure out, like, why the kidney failure happened, and there was just no good answers, and I really do believe a lot of it might have had to do with my neighbor spraying our fence, with Roundup. One time she had a big lump. Oh my gosh. I'm so sorry, Mila. I love her so much. So we had her cremated at the place that did the necropsy. And this is where people that have farms take cows that pass away, like livestock, because you have to like determine why your livestock has passed away when they drop dead. And they said it wasn't like that common for people to take dogs there. Like it does happen. And I'm sorry, you guys. Just never forget our last car ride together. And this is a really sad time of the year because not 13 less than 13 months later, my senior cat passed away in my arms, and they were both good girls, and I love them so much, and just hold your pets close because you never really know, you might think they're strong and healthy, and it can be so sudden, and it's the same thing with people, you know? So I just wanna do the best I can for you all and in honor of my Mila. Yeah, they gave me this nice box. This was like a 80 or $100 box. Like, I didn't pay for it, you know? And, like, when I picked it up and I saw this, it was really sweet of them. And, yeah, it's hard to talk about her. That's why I don't talk about her much, but, um, yeah, we all have things we go through and people and pets we lose and yeah, try to keep that in mind when I interact with people, you know, and I think that if everybody would, it would be better. Keith, as you allow yourself to feel and process your feelings, that you find your peace and comfort with every healing breath. Thank you, Keith. You guys are really sweet. For me to even be able to cry in front of you, that says a lot. And these are flowers that I took to Mila the day we put her down, and one of the last things she got to smell flowers from our garden. These are straw flowers, the pretty yellow ones. And I'm getting seeds falling off of these zinnias. I'm definitely going to save those and plant some seeds. So I'm sorry. It's like one reason I got on here so late. It's just been a tough day, and I know there's people that are going through way worse than like the 3-year anniversary of their dog getting put to sleep. But that's why I'm hoping that even on a bad day like today, or a not so happy day, because they can't all be happy, I can maybe help people by like reading from this book, and that makes me feel really, really happy. And um, my girl dog's over here making noise. Thank you, Keith. You said your friends stand with you. That's so sweet. Thank you so much. Yoder, my favorite dog, came to me when I needed her the most. I named her Honey. One night she just seized up and I kept her with me in bed. In the morning, the boys let her outside and never saw her again. I think he laid down dead, but I hunted her down and never found her body. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, Yoder. That's really sad. Well, I already read from the book, Keith. You're going to have to restart it. I don't know if you saw I read the first two chapters a few nights ago, and I just read three, four, and five tonight. And I'm gonna go ahead and sign off of here. I'm gonna probably keep crying, but yeah, I just wanted to say thank you guys. I I'm really looking forward to do it. I'm gonna redo my live from last night. I realized I misspelled Sadia. I had Sadie in the name, not Sadia. So I want to do a little bit better job on that. I didn't really go in on the psychology of the side chick and like why chicks are dangerous. Not to be, hyping up that double standard that doesn't need any more. The man isn't at fault at all. It's the man in that situation that was a real home wrecker. He was wrecking his own home, in my opinion. But anyways, yeah, we need to try to help Mr. Carey's family. Like, let's keep this family together in one home. Like, I would love to help Mr. Carey's family. Anybody that is in the position or knows that anybody that's in the position, there's a GoFundMe. I should post that so it's higher up on my page. Stay blessed, my beautiful, strong, and resourceful friends. I don't have a main chick, Keith said. I hope that you're doing well, Keith. I didn't ask you how you're doing. Um, but yeah, there'll never be another Mila, like I think like all my dogs are great. I love my dogs so much right now, but she was the best dog. When I gave birth at home, we put her in her crate and she didn't make one noise. And like, I'll just never forget how gentle. She was still a puppy then. And we had her crate trained, but she just wasn't used to being in the crate at that time. And she was like, it's like she knew. She's just the most perfectly behaved dog, like her whole life. And she was so young, and I just feel like I took her for granted because I did get her when I was pregnant with our third, and, like, I spent a lot of time with her. I slept with her on the couch and, like, housebroke her. I, like, slept in the living room with her till she was housebroken, and I just, like I still feel like she didn't have oh my gosh, I'm sorry. We had to put her down the week we sold our house, and we knew we were gonna buy land, and then I couldn't not think about her. Every single property we looked at, I was, like, walking around trying to, like, not cry or trying to cry at a moment where, like, the people around us wouldn't see. It was just, like, God's way of humbling us in this time where we sold our first house and when we had this chunk of money to get land, it's like you just had to take, like, our dog that week, like, that week sorry. Oh, hi, Jay Hardy. I'm so sorry. I was just talking about how 3 years ago today we put our dog Mila to sleep, and I already read from the book. If you're interested, Jay Hardy, I don't know if you saw the first chapter, two chapters I read the other night, but here I go. I'm sorry. I really like this shows how much I care about you guys because, like, I know I'm on a public platform, but I really do feel like I'm with friends right now. I appreciate you guys so much. Oh, thanks, Yoder. I don't like it at all, but I appreciate you guys being sweet to me. I'll be honest, I drank 2 beers before I got on here. I hadn't drank for like an hour before I like started to get on here and read, and like usually I don't do that either, like I just was like listening to like a sad love song, like songs dealing with the loss, and it's just like they say, like, time makes it easier. It's like, maybe a little tiny bit, but not really. Like, I miss her so much. And I'll never forget one day I was like out weeding and she sat up, she lay down and was leaning against me. And like, big dogs do that. They lean. And she's, like, back to back, like, looking out, doing her Mastiff guard dog thing, and, like, it was the best feeling in the world, like, having her next to me, and it was almost like I sensed something, like, I remember, like, this, like, overwhelming sense of, like, something, and then looking back on it, it's like my heart knew that she wasn't gonna be there much longer in the moment, and it was peaceful, it was good, and my family dog that got put down when I was in my 20s, we had a little poodle mix. It had to be put down because he got Cushing's disease. I had a dream where I saw him, where he was like brand new, and I felt him telling me, like, I'm okay, look at me, I'm healthy now. Like Cushing's, they have all these like tumors, bumps on their bodies, and he was like a puppy again. And I was wanting that for me, like, I just keep waiting for a dream from with her in it, like like, I had with Spaz was his name because he was a Spaz. At first, my parents didn't wanna name him Spaz, and then after, like, a week or 2, we're like, "Hey, yeah, he is Spaz." And, like, that was really hard losing that dog, but I wasn't living in the home at the time, I was already, like, separated with my own family, but that was incredibly hard because we got him as a puppy, and anyways, nervous system remembers everything. That is very true. The vagus nerve. Isn't that the biggest nerve in your body, right, Yoder? Jay Hardy, I'm so sorry. I came in right at the sad dog part. I had to put my BFF pug Lucy down last fall. I'm so sorry to hear that, Jay Hardy. Oh, so I'm sorry if I'm bringing up. I try to tell myself like we're just so blessed. Like the reason you miss them so much is because they add so much value to your life, and like it has like, not that we treated her badly, it's just, like, we didn't take her many places, like, we had a nice big yard, but, like, I just wish she got to experience more, and now I try to, like, make sure our dogs experience more, and they definitely have more space, and I mean, Rocco didn't even know our boy dog, he didn't know what a toilet was till he was over a year old. We had a porta potty for the first almost year we had him. And it was so funny seeing him get used to toilet. But yeah, Jay Hardy, I should have see, now I feel bad I didn't put, like, trigger warning, and, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, guys. Now I don't know if I should leave this video up. I'll put trigger warning in the title so anybody that comes to listen to it knows, trigger warning, uh, what should I say? "Oh, sweetie, my childhood dog no one paid attention to, so I started training him for, like, 6 months, really bonding with him, then he got hit by a semi." Oh, I'm so sorry, Yoder, that's awful. Yeah, I do say sorry too much, and I get on my own nerves when I do it, and I know that I've had people tell me, "That's annoying. Stop saying you're sorry." Like, it might even come out as insincere or disingenuine, but, it is just me being all nervous. Jesus Christ, how are you? Loss trigger warning. Keith, that's a good idea. Thank you for that. I'm not good with succinct titles. I need somebody like you, or like my title sidekick. Layla, Layla. She likes to lay on the side of our bed where there's like, you know, less than 3 feet of space between the bed and the wall, and she's a big dog, and, they like their cozy spaces, though, she's, like, kicking the wall. But, yeah, we're just blessed to have them while we have them, and it's just we only had not even 6 whole years with Mila, so that was what was so devastating. Copywriting is a hobby for me, Kisa. That's cool. Yeah, I still like I know people think AI is going to take over everything, but like when it's forced upon me, like when I Google something and the AI like it doesn't seem like it's so intelligent to me. It's like I still think a person who can write well is going to, be able to write better. But anyways, I'll definitely be our schedules have like officially changed as of tomorrow, and I'm going to try to be you know, um, I like to do with my older sons what I'm going to do with the younger boy. I'm homeschooling him now. Have like blocks of school, blocks of play. It's like, we wake up and do like 1 to 3 hours with him, it'll probably be more like one, honestly. Um, 1 to 3 hour block of school, and then like a 1 to 3 hour block of like, eating, playing, whatever they want, and then another block of school. So I'm going to try to, do that as you breathe in your strength and breathe out your stresses. Have a blessed day. Well, I'm sorry I just caught you at the end, Jay Hardy. I think I need to get going. See, one reason I don't like to cry is like my sinuses get so messed up now. It's like I have like immense pressure right here and not, yeah, I'm fine. I'm gonna be fine. A running joke was our pug got Lucy fur all over my truck. Was her name Lucy, Jay Hardy? Yes, you did say that already, sorry. That's a cute name, I love that name. I love Lucille Ball. I Love Lucy was one of my favorite shows growing up. Yeah, pugs are adorable. My husband loves pugs and Boston Terriers. He just showed me a picture of a Boston Terrier puppy the other day. "Look, it's only $150." I'm like, "That's like the last thing. We don't have an extra $150." Anyways, he's silly, he's sweet, he just loves animals, and that was one thing that was a huge green flag when I first met him. He had this gigantic, like 75-gallon fish tank, and he took such good care of that fish tank. I remember he had like this little net, like for their eggs, because he said like he didn't have that before, and then their eggs were getting ate, and it's like, I remember, like this is so cute, like it's yeah, and I believe his dad did do a good job helping him balance, his anima and his dad was an older father. His dad had him in older years. I don't want to give away all information, but his dad was older when he was born. Everybody walking around thought like it was his grandpa or whatever. And like him coming from a different time, I only got to spend a week with him, which I'm eternally grateful for. I got to spend this week with him at all, as he lived across the country from us. And when my husband graduated college, we got to spend time together when he came for that. And I just feel like there is something lost, and it's not men's fault. It's not men's fault. They didn't have true guides. They didn't have people who were interested in this process of individuation. I mean, Carl Jung, like when was he alive? Like 100 freaking some years ago. This isn't new age. This isn't like a new concept. And it almost makes me wonder, were men talking, and like I mentioned, women are like so important in so many ways. Like we are the people who usually do so much of the domestic duties, and this can also include being like the spiritual guide, and like we do so much. And Jay Hardy was like, yeah, and men work, and like I've thought about that, and I'm like it's so true that like I think that if men had a little bit more guidance while they were working hard, that they would be so much better off if it was more normalized to just talk like this, listen to audiobooks about things like this. Like men can be so great. It's just simply unlocked potential within them. Like that's not incels, the angry energy, it's wasted potential. And we all miss out on that when somebody is hurt so badly, they're not coming into their full whole self. They're not creating for the rest of us, right? And so it's like a double-edged sword. In order for a man to work as hard as he can and like be that producer, I don't want to call every man a provider and put that on him, but a lot of people say that the provider, protector. I think women can be provider and protectors too. But before the man does the inner work, it's going to be harder possibly for him to do that outer work. And maybe that's something that men are missing. And we just think we've grown to evolve. But like with all the influx of media, it's just maybe a lot of things have gotten lost that, um, yeah. Oh, Miss Patriot, how are you doing? I'm pretty good. I was just crying about my pet who passed away 3 years ago today, but everybody in here is being so sweet and I feel better now. She said a verbal medicine gift for you. They're easier to get along than with people. I'm into hypnosis and verbal medicine skills. Oh, emotional state control is the root of all healing and growth. Yes, you are so right, Keith, because I'm somebody. I can't tell you how, like, anxious I am. I know a lot of people have anxiety, but, like, it really, cognitive behavioral therapy, I found, like, worksheets online, and I have had therapy, psychotherapy the last time my husband and I separated. We had therapy apart and together and by a psychotherapist, and, I mean, that was just, like, 8 weeks long, but it was beneficial. Jay Hardy, now we have an Aussie Shepherd, Border Collie, and a Bernedoodle. The yard is wrecked. Oh, that sounds cute. Bernedoodles. Oh, they are so cute. Yeah, the dog that my family had, Spaz, he was supposed to be half poodle, half Pomeranian. He was supposed to be like 5 to 10 pounds. He wasn't. He was definitely part poodle. You could tell, like he didn't shed. He was definitely part poodle, but he was like 15 to 20 pounds his whole life. And yeah, they're great. He was a runner though. Gosh, like the thing I like about mastiffs, like I keep saying I think Layla is mixed. She does run and run, but she still sticks next to me. She likes to do her big laps around the yard and house, but then she'll always come right back. And Rocco doesn't run unless he's chasing after her. They're really lazy. Yoder, key said part integration. Yoder, inner child, inner work, inner shadow, all the same. Yes, Keith Van can't beat the reptile brain for real. Can't give the reptile brain good redirecting. Yes, yes, it's important to acknowledge. And I think they do it on purpose to us. They don't we are controlled and they don't give us a lot of information what could be useful to us in school for a reason. These things that if more people were more confident and had done this work, like then they would at least not be able to fall victim to the divide and conquer as easily, I don't feel what's going on right now with everything, which I do still have like hope for the best. And like I know I say a lot against Trump. I do always try to hope that everything's happening the way it's supposed to for good reason. And I the our everything was so unsustainable. We couldn't have kept going the way that we were going. It couldn't have kept going. So like cut after cut after cut, I always keep in the back of my mind like how many videos I saw where it was like, wow, now we're at this trillion, now we're at this trillion, and now we're like, it just like, I feel like we reached a point of no return. So it's like this crazy ride we're all on. A big toad showed up today. Is that a sign? I don't think so, Jay Hart. Is that a sign, Yoder? You might know better than me. A big toad. What does that symbolize? We have a few resident toads. It's so cute. I have this one we see often, in the same spot. I'm assuming it's a resident. We can only protect what are first of all. Is that a complete sentence? I'm waiting to see what Anna says about the toad, and then I think I'm gonna sign off of here, you guys. Gotta start taking my kid. Gotta start waking up early in the morning. I'll just say that. Not gonna be telling my business. Got it. First morning in a year and a half, I've had to like set my alarm for this early. But I don't sleep more than 6 hours usually anyways. Okay, Anna, I don't know if you're saying I'm gonna ask you about it in an email if toads are a sign. I would like to do more breaking down of this book, like at the very end. I promise I'm gonna get some good Cliff's notes, not just my opinion. Like I'm gonna get some good Cliff's notes at the end, and we'll probably have its own video. But I would say a big toad is a good sign for September 1st. No, it's not the beginning of fall until the 21st, but a lot of people see September 1st as almost like the beginning of the fall season. I didn't get any fall decorations out yet, but I was dusting and getting everything ready to get all the fall decorations out, which I don't have that much. Protect our family, first of all. I ask what would be beautiful for your life to be like to bring healing. Are you asking me that right now, Keith, or are you going through the what you do? Yeah. I appreciate you being here so much, Keith and Jay Hardy. I hope you have a great week. Anna, I hope you have a good week. I appreciate you being here the whole time. And I hope you sleep well, everybody. And I hope you have a good night, Ole Miss Patriot, if you're still here. And like when people stay all the way through to the end, like you, Anna, I really, really appreciate that. Jay Hardy, you, thank you. I appreciate you so much. And I'm looking forward to, I've got so much cool content I'm planning, but I'm learning to not speak about it. But trust me, we're gonna be like even more all over the place. And I feel like even, after what happened last night, like we are on the right path, and I'm so grateful that I have the ability to like hop on here and just talk to you guys. But I don't intend on I don't want to be a live streamer that just like talks for an hour, 2 hours a night about random things every night. We're gonna have a lot more going on. And Samo, yeah, you are late. I already read 3 chapters from the book. I hope if you listen to the first two, you rewind it and listen to them. But yeah, it won't be long till we're done with this book, guys. Hold on. I didn't see what page I ended on. I have to see. Oh my gosh, we're on the 38th page, so we're over halfway done already. You never know. I might just sit down and finish the rest of it, in one night. But let's try to get it done this week. Yoder said, "Aw, Samo, I enjoy your perspectives." Yes. Yeah, this wasn't a super chatty one. I was a little sad and trigger warning, Samo. If you do re-listen to it, I'm not telling you, you to, but like I talked about my dog who passed away, Freudian slip, and cried about that. But that was after I read the 3 chapters, so you won't have to like endure that to hear the chapters. That's really nice, Keith. I do believe that our thoughts are, they affect us on a cellular level, and if we can uh, okay, Hugo. I don't know, maybe it's from all the crying about my dead dog. But yeah, I'm fine. It was just one reason why I started so late and one reason why I might look funny, but I really don't care about that. I'd rather see you guys. Thanks, Yoder. I'd rather keep up with this book too. I really have a goal of having it done by Friday. Young is a bit more fancier than me, though. Oh, he's more fancier than me too. That's why I like to learn from him. And I think this book, it does such a great job, like simplifying Jungian psychology. It really does. Like, I think actual Jungian psychology might be a little bit more harder to like read 70 pages of and get all of this that we're getting out of it. The capital of Kentucky is Frankfort. Okay, you use collar breathing method. No, it's Frankfurt. Okay. I'm gonna go ahead and get going. Jay Hardy, I really appreciate you and all your support. I really sincerely do. I can't stress that enough. I thank you from the bottom of my heart. It's always really nice to get a tip. I love you guys, and I hope you have a great week. I'm not going to guarantee to go live tomorrow. I'm going to feel things out, but I really hope that the next time I see you, I find you well, and let me know in the comment section if you ever have anything you would like to hear me talk about. I really appreciate requests from you guys. And I am working on the lost books of the Bible stuff and still the Kentucky cryptids and that corruption. Oh my gosh, there's so much going on. Love you.